What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Network's very own Fantasy Football Huddle, presented by Danklyfe Brand and yours truly, Dallas Clark. Shouts out to everybody listening on all of the airwaves over on YouTube, as well as your favorite place for podcasts on Spotify at the Huddle Chat Sports Network. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscriptions bar as well as that notifications bell so you always know when new information's coming your way. And if you like the content, smash that like button. This channel is not this channel. The Huddle Chat Sports Network does not exist without your love and support, and I cannot thank you all enough. My appreciation is endless for you all. I hope you're also staying warm this week. I know out in Colorado right now, we're getting hurricane-like snowstorms out here. We're supposed to be getting snow, I think, from 5 p.m. this evening all the way through at least Friday evening. So stay warm, bundle up, get all your voting out of the way early today. It is election day. You're looking at the amount of people that aren't voting being absolutely ridiculous. So make sure you get out there and vote, everybody. There's so many options for you to vote. It's ridiculous if you don't vote. But anyway, let's get all that out of the way, guys. This week we're talking about what happened in week 9. We're discussing some of the injuries. We're talking about the teams that are on a bye going into this week and the waiver wire pickups that we need to make this week, as well as players that you are safe to cut going into week 10. So let's get all the stuff out of the way. Without further ado, let's fill up our cup, roll something up, and get right into the news. First things first, I have to mention to you guys, going into week 10, we have a lot of important moves to make on the waiver wire in your trades coming up in these next 3 weeks. There are 14 teams on a bye over the next 3 weeks. This week in week 10, you're looking at Cleveland, Green Bay, Seattle, and Las Vegas Raiders all being out this week for the bye week. We also had a ton of crazy injuries this weekend as well. You're looking at CD Lamb from the Dallas Cowboys suffering what looks like an AC sprain. He might be able to play through it. A lot of players do try to play through the AC sprain, but you are looking at if it's something that gets re-aggravated or worse, you're looking at CD Lamb missing a lot of time at an important time of the year for the Dallas Cowboys. You're also looking at that same team. Dak Prescott is having a hamstring and a hand injury at the current moment, and Dak Prescott has not been playing very well, but you're looking at Cooper Rush taking over in last week's game in week 9. Dak Prescott will have to wait and see what his practice involvement is going to be like this week and get some more news going on him to see if he misses an extended period of time. You're looking at one of the scarier injuries this weekend in Chris Olave from the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr kind of got the man murdered. Took his third serious concussion, or his third serious concussion in his 4-year NFL career, second in 3 weeks this season. It's not looking good for Chris Olave. He's kind of in that Tua Tagovailoa status, most likely going to go on injured reserve just because they cannot play with the brain. You're looking at Drake London suffering a right hip injury this last Sunday in week 9. Also want to monitor his practice statuses as well throughout the week to see if he plays. Caleb Williams suffered an ankle injury this last week from the Chicago Bears. You're looking at Caleb Williams potentially being able to tough it out, but they may end up sitting him for a week or two depending on the severity of the ankle sprain. And last but not least, another big shot to my personal fantasy football team, A.J. Brown. Looking at a knee injury coming off an MCL sprain. Could be 2 to 6 weeks that A.J. Brown misses. We're going to have to keep our ears to the streets and listen to what's going on with A.J. Brown. When we're going into our waiver wire picks this week, guys, and in these next couple of weeks, especially if you're really in win now mode and win now phases in some of your leagues, first thing you want to do is chase volume. It's going to be hard to kind of find somebody that you feel super confident like we were a few weeks ago on the waiver wire. Right now, you're trying to find those diamonds in the rough, those Quentin Johnstons from last week that if you listened to our episode and you went out and you started Quentin Johnston and picked him up off the waiver wire, you were feeling absolutely fucking fantastic. And you're welcome if you did that. We got to find those diamonds in the rough, and the way that we do that is by chasing volume. With the trade deadline coming this next couple weeks, there could be a few big names involved in this year's trade deadline. You're looking at people like Alvin Kamara being talked about being on the move this season. So you got to keep your ear to the streets and try to see if you can't make any preemptive moves for players moving to a new team. And when you're talking about that same team they're leaving, who is going to be taking their position when they leave? And if Alvin Kamara leaves, who's taking that running back volume for the New Orleans Saints? Those are the kind of questions you need to ask when approaching these waiver wires, whether you're looking at stashing or you're looking at players you need to start right now. But let's get right into players you can start right now. I'm going with the first quarterback that we're talking about today. It's going to be Russell Wilson from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's had 2 starts this season, and he's got 24% ownership across all your fantasy football leagues right now. He's playing the Washington Commanders this week, and they're allowing over 16 points per game. He's coming off of the bye week, so you have that bye week bump coming down for him as well. And in these 2 starts that he's played, he's put up 260 yards or more in both games and a total of 4 touchdowns between the 2 games. I'm also going to mention Bo Nix from the Denver Broncos. We've been talking about him for the last couple of weeks, and his ownership is starting to climb, and he's barely eligible to be put on this episode, but we don't have to spend a ton of time talking about him because we've talked about him for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Bo Nix is doing great things right now, and a lot of it is because of his high rushing upside. You're looking at him being quarterback number 4 since week 5 in the NFL season right now. Moving on into some of the running backs that you can pick up this week, and there's really not many running backs that you really feel comfortable in going out and getting. A lot of the running backs are going to be preemptive moves, speculative ads even in some of these cases. The first one that we're going to be talking about is definitely going to be a speculative ad in Khalil Herbert. You're looking at him being the trade with the trade deadline. You're looking at either him or Roschon Johnson likely being on the move, and you're looking at Khalil Herbert. He's an impressive player who has made an impact on every team he's played on, and if he gets moved, Khalil Herbert could definitely benefit being on a new roster. Or if Roschon Johnson goes someplace like the Dallas Cowboys or another team, you're looking at Khalil Herbert now taking that number 2 role and them needing a spark in that Chicago Bears offense. You're also looking at some backup handcuff players that we've talked about the last few weeks. I don't really want to waste your time talking about them because we all know the handcuffs at this point, the Isaac Guerendos at this point when it comes to Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey. But Christian McCaffrey's coming back this week. We've all been talking about the Kamani Vidals. There's a lot of handcuff running backs you can go out and get. It's really just dependent on which one you have the most confidence in, or which starting running back you have the most confidence in their decline or their ability or potential to miss time in the coming weeks. Moving to the wide receiver position, I'm looking at Jalen Tolbert from the Dallas Cowboys, especially if CeeDee Lamb is banged up. The Dallas Cowboys still have the worst running game in the NFL. You're looking at him getting a ton of targets. He's owned in 36% of leagues, but targets are targets, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care if they're not valuable targets. I don't care if it's Cooper Rush or Dak Prescott throwing him the ball. Jalen Tolbert is benefiting from CeeDee Lamb being on the other side of the ball, and he's one of the kind of elite players when it comes to a volume standpoint you can get off the waiver wire right now. Speaking about somebody we talked about at the opening of the episode, you're going to be looking at Quentin Johnston, owned in 28% of the episodes. We talked about him last week as well, and he's coming off his best game of the season, his first 100-yard game of the season, and he's the most consistent touchdown upside wide receiver on this offense in the Chargers. The Chargers have been throwing more, and Quentin Johnston might be a number 1 wide receiver in this offense if they continue on this trend. Moving on to another wide receiver we're talking about is going to be Demarcus Robinson, owned in 21% of leagues right now. He's got back-to-back games with 2 receiving touchdowns. He's got not as many targets right now as Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua coming back, but they are extremely valuable targets that he's getting. He's benefiting off of Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp all being out there, and the defenses are being so enthralled by all that information they're taking in. It's letting Demarcus Robinson just do whatever the hell he wants, and I'm liking him right now, especially as a late season stash. Another player I'm really excited about is going to be Calvin Austin, who's owned in 4% of leagues, especially if you're in a deep league or in deep need of a wide receiver. Calvin Austin is definitely somebody that can fill in that hole for you. You're looking at his matchup this week with the Washington Commanders, and he's Pittsburgh's wide receiver 2 at this current moment. He might be Russell Wilson's new Tyler Lockett in this offense, that slot wide receiver that can come in, and he's not going to be the number 1 wide receiver, but he can definitely be somebody that you benefit by having in your starting lineup. Last wide receiver we're talking about today is going to be more than a feeling, Adam Thielen. He's coming back from injury. He's returning this week with no Deontay Johnson in the lineup, and we're going to get that opportunity to see that Bryce Young, Adam Thielen connection again last year that was lighting it up last season. If you remember in the first half of the season, Adam Thielen was like a top 10 wide receiver with Bryce Young, just doing standard Adam Thielen things, and I'm excited to see Adam Thielen back as the number 1 wide receiver. Xavier Legette has been definitely dealing with some injury issues these last couple of weeks, and the entire Carolina Panthers offense is going to benefit from Adam Thielen coming back in the lineup, and so will your fantasy football team. Moving on to some tight ends that we can talk about this week, we're going to be adding Mike Gesicki, who we've been talking about all season, and he's owned in 21% of leagues. Eric All is out for the rest of the season. Their rookie tight end, meaning all of the tight end routes and opportunity are going to Mike Gesicki. He's still benefiting off of all the attention going to Jamar Chase. T. Higgins will be coming back soon. You're looking at Chase Brown also coming out into his own as well. So Mike Gesicki is getting open just by being not paid attention to because there are so many mouths to feed in this offense, but it's benefiting Mike Gesicki to such an insane stat that we've been talking about him all season long. Another tight end, if you do miss out on Mike Gesicki, I officially can finally endorse the ability to pick up Taysom Hill this week with Chris Olave most likely on injured reserve. Rashid Shaheed done most likely for the rest of the year. You're looking at this Saints offense needing a spark, and who do they always lean on when they need the spark? Playing at quarterback, playing at running back, playing at tight end and wide receiver. Taysom Hill can do it all, and he can definitely benefit your team, especially if he gets into the end zone. You're also going to be looking at some defenses. If you're streaming defenses this week, I do like the New York Giants defense and special team. I think that this game in Germany is going to be extremely low scoring. It's going to be an ugly international game like we're used to, and this Giants defense is definitely going to benefit off this Carolina Panthers offense having Bryce Young in the lineup and struggling like they were at the beginning of the season. I think because this is going to be a low scoring game, I like one of the top defenses in the league at the current moment in the New York Giants. I also like the Atlanta defense this week as well. There is no one to throw to in New Orleans, so you're looking at the Atlanta Falcons having an easy ability to get up early in this game and just forcing Derek Carr to make bad decisions and trying to force feed backup and practice squad wide receivers. So I think it's only going to benefit that Atlanta defense this week. That's going to do it for the week 10 waiver wire pickups. Here's a couple of players that I'm okay that you can drop this week. If you still own Ezekiel Elliott, what the hell are you doing? He's owned in 30% of leagues. It should be more like 0 leagues. He's been suspended from the team for not going to meetings. Conduct detrimental to the team, and you're looking at him only averaging 3.1 yards per carry on the season at this current moment. So Ezekiel Elliott has got to go. I'm also done with Rashad Bateman from the Baltimore Ravens, and if you haven't heard, Zach Moss has lost his job. He's banged up. Being owned in 73% of leagues, he needs to drop at least below 50%. Get rid of Zach Moss. You can get rid of Jerome Ford from the Cleveland Browns if you thought there was going to be a little bit of opportunity when Nick Chubb came back. That injury definitely killed Jerome Ford. He came back from the injury with 2 carries for 5 yards. Jerome Ford is done. Don't have him on your roster, and get rid of Dalton Schultz. He's owned in 65% of leagues. And this Texans offense is too hard to count on right now, especially with how many issues that they're having. And Dalton Schultz is probably the least favorite target of C.J. Stroud at the current moment. He's probably going to be the last person to find success in this offense when you're looking at that Houston Texans offense getting back on the right track. That's going to do it for the entirety of the Week 10 waiver wire bonanza today. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's going to do it, guys. Y'all have a good one. Keep your chins up and your attitudes down, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.